I'm Sam.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're MV Board Gaming, and today we are looking at Redwood, which is published by Sit Down and designed by Christoph Raimbold. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but Andrew is going to show us how to play, and then we'll be back for our review.
A game of Redwood is played over 5 rounds. Each round, a player is going to be controlling a set of 2 photographers, and each round they're going to be moving their photographers and taking a picture. At the end of the 5 rounds, whoever has the most harmonious points, or I guess you could call them pine cones, is going to be the winner of the game. So what you're going to be doing on your turn, I'm just going to give you a real brief overview, is that on your turn you are going to, starting with the first player, you are going to choose from a few templates. You're first going to choose from a move template. They can be extremely short, like that, or they can be very long, depending on how far you want to move on the map. And as soon as you are done choosing that, you will also choose a lens that you want to use for your picture. Again, they can be very long and narrow lenses, or they can be very short and wide lenses. Now, when you're choosing these templates, you cannot go and try to see, okay, do I want to do this one? Do I want to do this smaller one? No, this is very much a spatial awareness game. So just by looking at where your photographer is and where you'd like for them to be, you're going to be choosing templates based on your perspective and what you want to try to accomplish. And so in the game, what you're going to do after you choose these is you are going to move your photographer. Now, I'm going to try to show you, I'm not going to show you actually on the board because I feel like I'm going to make a mistake, but what you're going to do that is you're going to take the photographer that would be on the board, you'd clip this on. You have to be very careful to make sure you don't move the photographers around because this is a game of millimeters, so every little space counts. It could mean that something does get a picture or does not get in the picture. So you're going to take your little, I would clip this typically on my photographer that is on the board, and then I would be able to move this like so to decide where I want to move. Now, when you're doing that, it's very important because as you're going to see, there are animals on the board as well as other photographers. Now, when you're placing these movement templates, you cannot overlap in any way, partially or fully, any animals or other photographers. If you do, then you cannot move in that direction. So you're going to have to try and angle these around the animals and other photographers in order to get the perfect shot. Once you figure out where you're going to go, you will very gently place your new photographer on the end and replace the old one with the template very carefully. After that, you are going to use the lens that you chose, and you will attach that to your photographer, like so. And again, you'll be able to swivel this around to see which one is going to be the best picture for you. And when you go to take the picture, I want to point out a few things here on these templates. You're going to have these dots here as well as this line. So when you take the picture, let's say, for example, let's just say I was like this, okay? Just as an example, this isn't going to be a very good picture, but my background card for my panorama is going to be determined based on where my lens is pointed. So even though my character, as you can see, the board is divided up into 6 different wedges, even though I'm in this mountainous wedge over here currently, it doesn't mean that I'm going to take this mountainous background card. I'm actually going to take the card based on the background of my picture that I'm taking. So in this case, it's going to be this redwood forest over here. And so I would take this background card, and this is going to be my panorama. And the way you're going to determine what's in your picture is going to be determined by what is covered by your lens. So in order for me to get this elk, I have to have it completely covered. I cannot have a section of it showing. So if I have like a leg here sticking out, it's not considered in the picture. It has to be completely covered, if I want it to be able to be placed on my photo. And the same thing is going to go for any flowers or sequoias. Now, I can never take a picture that has another photographer in the picture, so that is not allowed. If in the rare case there's no possible way for you to use your lens without hitting another photographer or getting them in the picture, then your turn just ends immediately. So once you've determined what's in your photo and what background you'll collect those tokens here. Okay, so you're going to have animal tokens, you're going to have flower tokens, and you're going to have tree and potential sunlight tokens. The sunlight tokens you'll get if your lens is pointed towards the background that has the sun currently in that direction. Now, when you're doing your panorama, you're going to want to make sure you try to only get one sun, because if you have more than one sun and all of your pictures combined, you have too much light, which causes bad exposure, and it's going to give you negative points. So you're going to collect the items for your picture that you have. So in this case, I have this elk, I have this purple flower, and that's it. And I'll collect those tokens and I'll put them here on my board. If, for example, I had more than 2 of these tokens, I would then lose any extras that do not fit. So there's these little crosshairs here. So in this case, I can only use 2. Okay, so I might get that elk, and I'm going to get a purple flower. So as an example, I'll just get these ready, and that'll be. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I score points. So for each round, as you see these little cameras, there's going to be these extra ways to score points, depending on if I complete a specific objective. So as you can see in this one, it has to do with the holes that are in the lens, which means it's like a perfect picture. If you do that, if I manage to, if I have the elk in that hole or you can see an item through there, you're going to get an extra point. And then if I get a yellow flower, I can get an additional point. And every single time, you're going to compare your photo to each of these round objectives that are going to pop up. Okay? And that's how your turn is going to go. Any animals that you take a picture of, they're going to move. So some areas are going to have specific animals that move to them. So the elk is in the red space and here in the yellow space. So this would then move to a different location. They always stay on the board, but they will move around as their picture is taken. In future rounds, you're going to be taking pictures. So let's say in a future round, I took a picture in the green area. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be trying to make a harmonious panorama. So I'm going to adjust the camera real quick right down here to show you what I mean. So these pictures, these backgrounds connect perfectly if you manage to match the color. So you can see whenever you take a picture, now your first one can go obviously anywhere, but any picture after that is going to go to the left or the right side of your panorama. So in this case, I might want to if I take a picture in the green area, I'll connect it here. I might want to try to shoot for blue to connect over here. And I'm going to try to get as many of those connected as I can, because the more of those that I have harmoniously next to one another, I'm going to score more points. Okay? So as each round goes and you're taking these pictures, that's going to be something you want to keep in mind. Okay? And that's how this game's going to go. Each round, the sun is going to move. It will reveal another objective to score additional points. This one, it's going to say if you use the 2 or 3, because as you look at these little templates, they're going to have little pips. Hopefully, you can see that little 2 there, to where if you use a specific size, then you'll get extra bonus points. And you're going to check your picture every round against all of these that are available. One thing I didn't mention is as you're moving, you're going to see there's this little line, it's a circle that goes all the way around, right? You have to stay inside this circle. You cannot move outside of the circle in order to take a picture, but that should seem pretty self-explanatory. So at the end, you're going to get points for having different kinds of animals. For each sequoia you have is going to score you a couple points. You're going to score points for the flowers that you have in your pictures, as well as each individual animal will score its own specific number of points as well. Okay, and the game does come with an expert mode where these might have very specific things on each of these backgrounds that they're looking for in order for you to complete. So, for example, for the green one here, it wants to have a sequoia tree in this space there. And if you don't fill them up, you're going to get negative points for every one that you leave blank. So it's like -1 for each of these white ones. And then these red ones that have requirements are -3 points. And so, yeah, you're going to score points based on having that harmonious panorama, different animals, flowers, all that fun stuff. And whoever has the most points is going to win the game. So let's take it back up top and tell you what we think.
All right, and we are back. So this was a Father's Day gift for you. It was on your list. I know it's been one that you've been excited to play for a long time.
Yeah.
So what was the reason that you were so intrigued by it?
So this game I had saw originally when it was on Kickstarter, was really enthusiastic about the theme, this being out in the woods, taking a picture. I liked the idea of, having that spatial awareness, using the right camera lens, being able to move to the right areas. And so I was really intrigued by the theme, and but I never pulled the trigger because it seemed like the price was pretty high.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how the mechanisms were going to flow. It seemed like I wasn't 100%, like I loved the idea of the game. I wasn't sure about the execution of the game. And so I never backed it. Last year at Gen Con, I tried to get into a play of it, couldn't get into it. I would keep going back and forth because I was really captivated just by the idea and what you were doing in the game. But I wasn't captivated so much by the mechanism. So that was kind of like my first impression before I'd even gotten to play the game. So it was always on my list and something that I was very interested in getting a hold of and playing and trying at some point in time. So I was thankful to get it for a Father's Day gift. And this is nice that we get to sit down and do a review of it because we've been on hiatus this summer quite a bit because we've been very busy with things. So it's nice to come back and have some games that we can do a review on. So with that being said, we can jump right into our little game rating rubric that we use for when we score our games. And so first we'll jump right into production. So I'll let you talk a little bit about the art because I know you're usually very observant about the art in the game.
Well, I do think the art is very beautiful. All the animals and the plants and everything looks like realistic as far as like, I don't know, from just like a graphic design point. It doesn't look like cheap or I don't know. The quality is good. I think that the board is very bright and captivating, and so it makes you feel that you're really, out there like taking pictures of animals and stuff. So I did like the different colors of the board too, the different sections. So yeah, I think overall I really liked.
Yeah, and it's nice how it all comes together in a nice little panorama kind of thing. I think the graphic design is super easy to understand. The iconography, it is very simple, especially once you learn some of the concept. You're like, oh, okay, that's what a perfect picture is, right? So every time you see that symbol, you understand what it is. But they do have the little reference sheet on the back of the rule book, so it's really easy to understand and pull out, at least for the first few games. But it's really simple. Once you understand the different icons, you know exactly what's happening. So, which is great there. Component quality. Now, this is the retail edition. This isn't a Kickstarter edition. I'm sure that if you see the Kickstarter, things will be a lot different, especially if they unlock certain things. So, the board is really nice. I like the main board. The way that the animals fit into those little hex holes is really cool. I like the quality of the cardboard tokens. The one thing that does have me kind of like, this was a little weird, are the different templates, whether it's the movement ones or the lenses. Sometimes it can be a little rough getting those on and off of the miniatures, although I really like the miniatures. You have 4 different colors. You have the little pieces that you put on the bottom, the like playmat material to keep them from sliding around, which was really nice. But sometimes it can be those templates, when they clip on, they don't want to move really well
Yeah.
sometimes, and so it can be a bit tedious with
They're
getting them
kind of
on and
stiff.
off. Yeah, and they feel kind of stiff and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I
I
don't know
feel
if
like you
that's a
wouldn't want to.
quality issue or if that's just a component issue.
Mm-hmm.
But it that was one of the biggest things, which is a main part of the game, to where you can feel
Mm-hmm.
a lot of frustration and it makes the game feel very fiddly.
Mm-hmm.
So from a production standpoint, that is a bit of a red flag for when I'm playing the game, because it's such a big part of the
It
game.
is, yeah.
So with that being said, going into the preparation part, so we talked about production, preparation. The game is a relatively easy teach, easy to set up. Like, you can set up the game in literally a couple minutes. It
Mm-hmm.
does not take much. You're literally putting out your little background cards. You have your goal cards, and
Mm-hmm.
you put out the little animals, and you're pretty much ready to go. You
Right.
make your little supply piles. Doesn't take much to set it up. It's not difficult to teach. Literally pick a moving template, pick a lens, you
Mm-hmm.
move, you take your picture, you evaluate your picture, you get to move animals around. Not a big deal. There's a couple little things like, hey, obviously you don't want to take pictures of other photographers. You got to completely
Mm-hmm.
cover the item that you're taking a picture of, or the animal or the flower or the tree or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you obviously can't be off the board when you're moving, that kind of stuff. The moving template can't hit other people or animals, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So some little rules like that, but nothing that I think. I mean, a lot of it can be very intuitive, I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
and so easy to grasp rules. It does not take long to teach.
Well, it's very hands-on
Yeah,
too. Like I feel, I mean, that's like the gameplay part of it, but I feel that, it's very hands-on as far as like you learning it too.
right. Yeah,
So,
once you do it for like a round or two, you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
mhm,
It's not a whole lot to it.
mhm,
So with that being said, the preparation is pretty good. I really like the setup. The teardown's really quick, getting it to the table, teaching it really easy. I think you could teach this to first-time gamers. I think they could get it pretty easily. At least that's my opinion. But sometimes I think that first-time gamers are smarter than what other people think they are. So I think it could be.
maybe.
This could be a game. I think this is something that people that are like, "Ooh, this is cool. This is unique." It could pull people in who are into
Yeah,
photography and stuff,
it's true.
and it's not very rules heavy. So
No,
I think
no.
it'll take, like, once you play your first game, be like, oh, okay, I might have done this a little bit differently. But we'll talk about that in gameplay. So let's go ahead and transition into gameplay. What did you think about the game? Go ahead.
Um, okay, well, there is obviously like, the lenses, the things that you have to clip on and stuff. I felt like that was a difficult part of the game just because I was so afraid of bending the pieces.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, I'd have you do it if I felt like I couldn't get it on, but I felt like that kind of I don't know,
Took
made the
away.
game, yeah, made the game not as enjoyable because of that part. Also, I mean, your spatial awareness, if it isn't that great, like mine is not the best. Like I like to, whoops, I like to like hold things up to see if it fits where it's supposed to be. Like, oh, let me just check real quick. Okay, does
Yeah,
that
you
fit?
can't do it.
And you can't do that. That's part of the rules. Like once you take it, that's your piece, and you have to live with that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when I played
Once you
it
touch it, you got to take it.
once I played the first time and it was kind of rough, like trying to figure out what I'm shooting, what direction, like how far I need to be. But then playing it again, I did a lot better, and I was like, okay, like maybe this is just that I needed like practice first, and then when I played it again, I was, it made more sense, and
Right.
I was able to score a lot more points. So I mean, overall, I feel that it is easy to learn once you figure out what you're actually doing, if that makes sense. Like what, how you have to space things and what you're going for and how you score points and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's not like rules heavy, like you said. It doesn't, yeah, it's not like it's gonna burn you out type of game.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's. I feel like it's very thematic, right? So it
very
feels like
thematic.
you're in the woods, moving around. and trying to take these pictures and get these different animals, and you have to get the whole animal. You can't cut off its head and be like, oh, this is a great picture. No, like I like how it feels very immersive, very thematic in that way. And after you take your picture, the animals are gonna run around, that kind of stuff.
I don't like when other photographers are in my way, though.
Right. I get that. Because it could be a little fiddly if somebody's spatial, because that's something that you're going to realize. You're like, oh wow, okay, I thought that would get me further. I thought that would be shorter, whatever it is. Sometimes people have to like try to pivot and see what they can do with the pieces that they got. So if people have AP, I don't think this is a game that you should take very seriously at all. It's a fairly quick game. It's only 5 rounds. You take 5 pictures, and that's it. You move, you take your picture, you evaluate your picture, get your tokens, move on, kind of thing. But when it becomes fiddly with the lenses and the movement, and you're trying not to, because this really is a game of millimeters, because you don't want your guys to move. You have to move them exactly, and you got to hover over the piece and move out the other piece, and so it could be a little problematic in that sense. So if people are taking a little time with the fiddliness, there can be some downtime there. But I feel like the game overall is relatively streamlined. I don't know how they can get around if it's a component issue with those templates, but it does feel relatively streamlined. I feel like there's not a whole lot of luck. It's really strategy as you're running around. I mean, obviously the luck is going to be the different objectives that pop up and what you're going to be going for, but that's not, you can mitigate that. That's not a big deal. So I think it's all about strategy and putting yourself in a position to be able to take the best pictures, right? So I like most of it, but the main catch with the templates is also its biggest downfall when it comes to gameplay. So that's where I kind of have this weird love-hate relationship with the game, because so, and I'll get into that in my next part of it. But yeah, I think it's pretty thematic. You don't want too much light in your picture, so you only want to get 1 sun token, not 2. And so you got to kind of make your moves around where the sun is going and everything. And do you go for the perfect panorama, or do you try to get more of those pine cone points from the objectives? You have to weigh that. So there's some decisions to be made. I do wish there were more decisions to be made, because sometimes you're just like, oh, that's an obvious one. I'm definitely going to go there. So it just kind of depends. It's on the lighter side, I would say, gameplay-wise.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so then let's go ahead and jump into the last part, which is just really our return on investment. So, and I'm not really, when I say return on investment, I'm not thinking about like dollar amount, but just kind of our expectations going into it, the amount of time that we put into learning and setting it up, and then the amount of joy that we get out of the game, right? And so I'll let you go first, if that's okay, and we can you can kind of explain yourself and give your score.
Well, I mean, since I was the one that bought it for you, I knew you were taking pictures of animals. Like, that's pretty much the gist of, I mean, I remember seeing, maybe when it was on Kickstarter, you might have showed me like a video or something.
I think I did.
But I don't know. I think I didn't have too many expectations. I think I thought it was going to be kind of different. Like, I
thought
know.
You would love it because it's animals.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I really, I don't know.
Any nature-themed game, I assume you would be really excited about.
Yeah, but I didn't have much expectations, just because I feel like I didn't know too much. Like, I knew, oh, you're taking pictures of animals, but I knew you were kind of moving around the board, and I couldn't remember like what that entailed.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is just a game I know that you've wanted for so long, so I'll get it, and it has animals, so duh, I would play it. Right. But yeah, so I don't know. I felt like, I don't know. I just wasn't expecting what it was with like the templates and stuff. So that kind of threw me off a little bit.
All right. So what would you give the game?
Rating?
Yeah.
I think I would give it like a 7.3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, I've already kind of talked about a little bit about my perspective of what I was thinking about the game before I got it. I even in my notes when we got the game, I was like, don't buy it unless you can get it like at a discount, right? Because this was not a game I wanted to put a lot of money into, and so I always had that in my notes. Like, I'm intrigued, I would buy it, but not unless I can get it at a discount.
Yeah.
And so that was always my thought. I didn't have super high expectations. I wanted it to be really good, but luckily there's not a whole lot to invest into it. I wouldn't pay the normal MSRP for this game. I think it's like $60 or something like that.
Something like
maybe
that. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit
it
less.
Might
I
have,
could be a lot wrong. But
I don't know. I think it was around that because
yeah.
when we were
I
looking
wouldn't spend
before,
$60 on this game. It's not worth $60 in my opinion. And so, but setup, obviously, like I said, learning the game, there's not a whole lot of time that goes into it. It's pretty quick and easy. Now, with that being said, because of the fiddliness of I feel like I would just rather play it at 2 if I'm gonna play it, because if people's pieces are accidentally moving around or whatever, and it's not supposed to happen. Like, if you have multiple people, if you're playing a 4-player game, there's gonna be a lot more downtime as people are trying to decide what pieces they want to take, right? So I would prefer it at a lower player count. We played it at 2 and 3. I didn't play it at 4, and I don't think I'd want to just because of that. And I think replayability wise, it's okay. Replayability, you're going to be doing essentially the same things. They have an advanced mode. I would never go back to the basic mode. I would just play the advanced mode. There is like a little expansion that's out there. I think it adds more animals and whatnot, but replayability is okay. You have those different gold cards that obviously keep it changing up from time to time, so that's the most of the replayability you're going to be getting. I think if you get the expansion, it adds like player powers, that kind of stuff and whatnot, but and more stuff. So there might be more replayability if you were to go and get, I think it's called the Call of the Wild expansion. But with that being said, I'm going to come in at a 6.8 with this. The fiddliness of the templates does kind of bring it way down, because that is the game. That is the whole niche, the gimmick. Not necessarily gimmick. I mean, it's a real, like, actual working mechanic to the game that is crucial to the gameplay. But because it can be very, very clunky and just fiddly and gets in the way of what you're trying to do, I don't know if that's a component issue or whatnot. I really love the concept. I really like what you're doing and what the game's trying to do. I just feel like the game kind of gets in its own way. It doesn't really overstay its welcome. The game is pretty quick, like I said, but going to be coming into that 6.8 just because I think it hurts it that much, and it just leaves a little bit more to be desired. So, and the price point for me is just not worth it. If you're going to buy it at MSRP, it's not worth it. So that's my opinion. But that's what we think about the game. Let us know what you think. If you have the Kickstarter, maybe things are a little bit different. I'd like to know, like, hey, maybe they address some things, or maybe there's a lot more replayability with that. I mean, for the longest time, I wanted that Kickstarter edition, but I just wasn't willing to pull the trigger on that. On that tag. Yeah, on that price tag. So, but yeah, so that's going to do it for Redwood by Sit Down Games. If you like that idea of running around and that spatial awareness, taking pictures of animals in the forest, you should definitely check it out. And especially if you can get it for a deep discount, it would be my opinion. But until next time, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.